All right, guys. So today I'll be reading "This Is Water" by David Foster Wallace. This was a recommendation by Amorphous on the stream. What do I know? What do I know about the speeches? Honestly, it's been a long time, but I did read this maybe like 12 years ago, and I remember feeling like it was funny and interesting and well thought through and well structured. But I don't really remember any of it. It's a speech to Kenyon College, 2005, and it's a commencement speech, right? So the whole purpose of it is to just sort of like give some sort of inspiration or like some sort of like clarity or a vision to students, right? So I'm not looking for any particular payoff in terms of the message. I'm really just more focused on like how good of a speech this will be, how funny it'll be, how witty it'll be, the turns of phrases. I think I'll be more focused on the language of it rather than the sort of the content payoff of it. But we'll see. So let's get going. Yeah, that's such famous. What the hell is water? That's such a famous line. And then this is the meta comment. This is a standard requirement of the thing that I'm currently doing in front of all you college students, the deployment of didactic little parable-ish stories. But it's a funny parable because it's such a random parable with no clear meaning at the beginning. So it makes it very what do you call it? It makes it sort of it for like the audience at this point, this gathering of college graduates or about to be graduates, you know, they're gonna, and these are smart kids, right? Um, they're gonna be like trying to front run David Foster Wallace and trying to figure out what message he could possibly be giving when the parable is just what the hell is water? Like there's no clear meaning there. I mean, I've read this before, so I kind of know roughly what direction it's going, but I actually don't really remember, and I don't really know the meaning of it. I just kind of know the turn that happens, right? So I'm still kind of I'm actually in the same position as the college students would have been back 20 years ago. I'm also just like, what the hell is gonna be the point? I am not the wise old fish. Damn, dude, that's another witty turn. The obvious are the yeah. This is what I remember. These are the hardest to see and talk about. Sure. Banal platitudes can have life or death importance. Actual human value instead of just a material payoff. So this is such an interesting era, by the way, in American history. It's like this is before the 2008 financial recession, the Great Recession, as it's known. And this is my generation. This is the generation that grew up like thinking about deep, like admiring, like literature and philosophy and trying to be like a renaissance man and trying to be like well educated in broad sense and not necessarily thinking so practically about things about like computer engineering or computer science or software engineering or civil engineering. We kind of like look down on the on the pencil pushers, on the accountants and all the people who get like concrete things done, right? This is the era where like you should just like do experimental rock or whatever, right? And like, and we had so many hipsters who were into like we're just like competing with each other, and I was not exactly one of them, but anyway, I was kind of in that milieu where we're just trying to find like specific like artists that no one has ever heard of, and that's kind of like what we got off on back then, you know. And then that was like there was like a so it was kind of frothy. This is the era of like the aesthete, the literary musical uh, like artsy kid, right? And 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 this is David Foster Wallace, and he's kind of one of the symbols of it. And here he is. He's gonna He's going to defend the liberal arts, or he's saying he's supposed to defend it. So we'll see what he actually does with this. Teaching you how to think. Yes, that's a cliche. It's very common. The choice of what to think about. Okay, that's interesting. So the choice of what to think about is an interesting framing. It kind of focuses us on like what the water is. Should we think about the extremely obvious thing that no one really thinks about? And this is reminding me of what David Foster Wallace kind of like stood for, like fuzzily. He was, like anti-Bush, for example. Um, just slowly trickling back into my memory right now. And so I did. I tried it. I fell to my knees in the snow. After all, here you are, alive. No, man, all that happened was a couple Eskimos just happened to come wandering by. Right. Two totally different meanings. Yes, 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 yes. We don't want to claim that one is true or false, false or bad. Okay. We never talk about where they come from inside the two guys. We never talk about where. We don't talk about where. Religious people do talk about where, but uh, but David Foster Wallace himself is not a religious guy, so it's interesting actually hearing someone say that. But I'm just gonna move on because I don't want to get too bogged down by like intellectualizing everything here. Uh, Plus, there's a matter of arrogance. I kind of like this little transition here, but as of how we construct meaning, we're not actually a matter of personal intentional choice of conscious decision. So that's an interesting claim to be making, that we're actually deciding it. So it's coming from within the person, and we're therefore deciding it. I'm not sure I fully buy into that claim, but I'm not gonna nitpick here. Oh, interesting. They've yes, this is the era of the new atheists. Damn, dude, I forgot about this. 2005, that was the era of the new atheists. So we're, if anything, yeah, this is, so it's actually more intellectually, at the time, if you're just sort of like supposed to look intellectual, you would actually side with the atheists. But actually, David Foster Wallace is on the opposite side right now. He's kind of ragging on the atheists first. And there was a counter movement against the new atheists because the new atheists were so obnoxious to a lot of people. To me, I thought they were obnoxious personally. But then again, they were also pointing out real issues with the religious right. But okay, anyway, I don't want to get, yeah. But that was the politics of that time. So I totally forgot about this. It's interesting that he took in this case he took the side of the non of the religious guy here. At least to most of us here. Totally wrong, deluded. So right now, the general direction of this, what I'm predicting right now is that, I mean, the point is pretty simple. That's not to say it's not important. I think it's actually really important. In fact, I think if anything, it's actually one of my jobs as a tutor to instill this point, and kind of have my students embody this point. But it's this idea of just like being so sure that the water you're in is just the water, right? That you never think about it. You never think about it. Being so sure of it that it's just taken for granted, and um, how that actually has knock-on effects further down the road, especially if you become powerful politically or powerful economically. You can have with the assumption, with the set of assumptions that you have, right? If you don't learn to question your own assumptions, you can cause a lot of harm without even knowing. In fact, you can cause a lot of harm and be self-justifying as you do it, and it becomes even more hardened. It becomes even more self-reinforced. And so having the intellectual discipline to be able to like question your own assumptions, that's a really, it's a special skill. It's not everyone develops it. Everyone can, but they don't. So I think it's really important. Um, it's a really important skill to develop. I don't know if skill is the right word. Actually, it's like a like a like competency. I hate that word right now. I can't think of the word for it, but it's really important to develop that habit. Um, and So when I think about the rest of the speech, what am I one third of the way in? I don't see the content of it. I'm kind of curious. What I'm expecting now is I'm expecting there to be more teeth to it. So like I'm expecting David Foster Wallace to sort of get into sort of the consequences of not questioning the water we're in. So he's giving an example from himself. This is a very humble start. He's actually kind of almost subjecting himself to his own ridicule. It's a little broad and abstract, though. Okay. Ooh, hang on. What's this adjusting? Altering or getting free of my default setting. Okay. Does it involve actual knowledge or intellect? Depends on what kind of knowledge. Academic education is okay. Inside me. Okay. Hypnotized. Yep. This sounds like a sounds like a battle with ADHD in the parlance of the 21st century of 2023. How to exercise some control over how and what you think. Yeah. An excellent servant, but a terrible master. The mind being an excellent servant, but a terrible master. The mind being an excellent servant, but a terrible master. I actually don't remember this cliche. Kind of. Give me a sec. What? A terrible, excellent servant. Who says this? Just some random. Okay, well, whatever. I kind of like. I'm noticing just like a recurring motif of like Wallace, David Foster Wallace, just sort of kind of exalting the banal, the obvious. He uses these words: lame, banal, uh, obvious. I can't think, but like these words come out as a recurring theme that like he keeps taking the negatively imbued meaning to the cliches of our lives, and then he tries to reinvest them with meaning. I think that's a good habit. And this is pretty. Oh, wait. Oh, but in the head. Wait. So what was the edit? It's not the least because those they're always should themselves in the head. Oh, they get rid of the master. There was like the original quotation is to get rid of the master. Interesting that they still keep them. it's a weird editorial decision to get rid of that one sentence. It's really weird. So right now, my the framing of the way that I'm starting to judge this essay or speech rather is I'm really thinking about it from the standpoint of a defense for liberal arts education. Okay, and this is where I might start getting more interested. Um, I still believe in liberal arts education, but I no longer push it. I no longer, well, push is kind of a negative sounding word. I no longer really like propound. Yeah, I don't really expound on it anymore, because it's not the era anymore. This is the era of the engineers. Everyone's just trying to build, and make money and buy a house in the suburb and then get into some random hobby that they learn from Reddit and then create their own little Discord server for that one stupidly niche hobby and then they find like 12 other people just like them. Right? That's like the dream. That's the American dream. Become an engineer, make $200,000 or more per year, hate your job, but have a Discord server for your random hair drying community, right? That's like, and then get married, and then have children. That's kind of like the era that we're in, and so the defense of the liberal arts is something that the University of Chicago, my alma mater, right, still continues to push, and I still believe in it, but I no longer talk about it. So I guess that's kind of the angle I'm taking now as I'm starting to read this. Like, is this a good defense or is this not? How to keep from going through your comfortable, prosperous, respectful adult life, dead, unconscious slave to your head, uniquely, completely, and purely alone, day in, day out. Let's get concrete. Yes, thank you. I am wanting to be concrete. Boredom, routine, frustration. Yes, you're tired, you're stressed, supper, unwind, no food, yeah, supermarket, traffic's bad, crowded, fluorescent, soul-killing music. Okay. Um, Overlit store, hurried carts, ADHD kids, supper supplies, checkout lanes, long, stupid, frustrating. You can't take your fury out on the frantic lady, overworked, because we are here at the prestigious college. Have a nice day. The voice of death. Load your packs. SUV intensive. Everyone here has done this, but it hasn't become of your routine yet, but it will be. You're going to get. That's going to be your life, but that's not going to be the point of your life. The point is that this is where you have to choose. I still continue to respect David Foster Wallace's attention to the banal. Stupid, cow-like, and dead-eyed, and non-human. It doesn't have to be a choice. It's your default. So it's kind of he's kind of aiming at like a selflessness, like a egolessness. But he's connecting that to the liberal arts education. I'm not sure the liberal arts education. I guess in a way, I can see the argument. It is actually I who am in his way. So for me, they just cut me off. Trying to rush through I who am in his way. This is such a classic. I grew up in the church, right? This is such a classic church turn of speech. Uh, This is such a classic sermon. Okay, it's just a secular sermon. It's a secular sermon about how you're not really at the center of the world. So it's just funny to see it like this. The secular church of Kenyon College. Please don't think I'm giving you moral advice. Actually, he kind of is though, and I don't know why he's so hesitant to just commit to it, or that I'm saying you are supposed to think this way. Yeah, so this is the argument for empathy. You have other options. You can think other ways. So I don't know if I kind of like this general. I think it's kind of a trick that's happening, but basically, David Foster Wallace talking to this audience of hyper educated kids, right? He's trying to sublimate their intelligence. And that's America, by the way. We valorize intelligence so much, right? Intelligence is like it's like the new idol, okay? Um, Back in the day, we had Baal and Beelzebub. Now we have intelligence and IQ, and we worship it. And what he's doing, he's taking this intelligence, this liberal arts education, um, steroid injected intelligence, and he's trying to take that into a moral direction. He's trying to like point it at empathy. He's kind of saying, he's suggesting that more intelligent you are, the more capable you should be of empathy for these people at the market, these these annoying, frustrating, like annoyingly self-centered ladies and men just stuck in my way, right? He's trying to like he's trying to link the movement towards empathy with the intelligence that you have. And I think that's a very smart and it's a very clever argument to make, because it's flattering on the one hand, you are intelligent, and on the other hand, it's also serving a purpose. The purpose is, hey, don't be an asshole, uh, don't put yourself at the center of everything. Um, and and So even if logically or in terms of just the argument itself, I don't even fully buy it. I do buy the project. I do buy his direction here. It will actually be within your power to experience a crowded, hot, slow, consumer hell type situation as not only meaningful, but sacred, on fire with the same force that lit the stars: compassion, love, the subsurface unity of all things. Not that that mystical stuff's necessarily true. The only thing that's capital T true is that you get to decide how you're going to try and see it. Yeah, damn dude, this is that postmodern, self-aware, can't be confident about anything way of speaking that I feel like is no longer actually the way we talk. We don't talk like this anymore, do we? I think we're a little bit more confident nowadays. Uh, it's kind of interesting. Or am I just more confident nowadays? I don't know. Um, this I submit is the freedom of real education. You get to decide what does mean, what doesn't. You get to decide what to worship. There's no such thing as not worshiping. Everyone worships. The only choice to get is what to worship. Okay. I mean, for me, this was a pretty common argument. I mean, yeah, this is interesting. This is definitely, this feels almost like a reaction to new atheism, this whole speech. New atheism and the general secularization of like the university education. Worship your own body and beauty and sexual allure, and you will always feel ugly. You will die a million deaths before they finally plant you. We already know this, the skeleton every. The trick is keeping the truth up front in daily consciousness. Worship power, you'll feel weak and afraid. Worship intellect, you'll be stupid, unconscious. It's though these forms of worship, it's not that you shouldn't, it's just that you're in danger. It's that you're in danger when you worship something without knowing that you're worshiping it. And our culture has harnessed these forces in ways that have extraordinary. Yeah, our culture actually wants us to put ourselves at the center of everything, right? And uh, uh, and it actually benefits us. This is interesting. This is a turn I was not expecting, but talking about. I wonder how much time David Foster Wallace spent outside of America. I'm sure he must have spent some time. I wonder how much he's viewing it from the outside in. Um, but I do like this sentence that I'm working with. The freedom all to be lords of our tiny, skull-sized kingdoms, alone at the center of all creation. I think this is such a great indictment of American individualism, and American individualism is like a wonderful thing in some ways, because there's a lot of countries in the world where people want more individualism, like Americans, at the way that it's like kind of practiced and massaged into the fabric of into the muscles of the American body, but like the end game of American individualism is you become the lord of your tiny skull-sized kingdom alone at the center of all creation with your one hobby of doing hair drying art. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like every fucking American has like some hobby that defines them, you know. um, and it's such a. I had this conversation earlier with I went to a sake bar last night, and I was and there was a guy from Israel. He's an older man. He's been living in Japan for like 37 years. He must be in his 60s or maybe above that. And and he was just talking about how in America, it was a conversation we were both having actually, but it was a conversation about how we always have to project like our identity and our interests and the thing that we are, to others, to like have a symbol of ourselves for other people to understand us in America. But in other countries, it's not actually like that. Um, in other countries, and this is by the way related to college applications. College applications in America are kind of unique because they require you to project who you are. You have to define yourself. You have to have like your ego has to be like shaped into this thing. You have to like market it to some extent, right? Um, and so that becomes the end game of the American life, like to find your passion and then to invest all your energy into it or whatever. Um, I kind of love this sentence right now. So I'm gonna hold on to that. What even is postmodernism? I mean, honestly, it's not really worth talking about postmodernism until you actually talk about modernism first. And so I don't know how much background knowledge you have on this, but basically, um, with modernism, I mean, by the way, I'm not like a professor, and I don't think about this day to day. So my definitions, I'm sure somebody's gonna have corrections to the things that I'm about to say, but I'll try to get the thrust of it. Okay, modernism is characterized by a profound uncertainty of certainty. I'm not trying to be clever with this, but it's just the way it came out. Like, um, the Enlightenment had gave us this idea that we could scientifically and rationally organize the world into bits of knowledge that we can then structure and exploit to our advantage. Okay, that we had this confidence that with the power of science we can start applying it, not only to not only to not only to the stars and to like the geometries or whatever that we see, but like eventually even to like human beings. You know, sociology becomes, we start delving in, we the field of sociology gets invented, right? And then the field of psychology gets invented, and we're analyzing the religious feelings of people and the sexual desires of people, and we have this confidence that we're going to understand. And modernism is like, what the fuck? All this confidence leads to like, and yet we're like, and now this Nazis come up, you know, with their rational vision of the world, right? um the uh geez, I'm actually forgetting some of the historical context here. I guess the Nazis are probably the most, is that the most typical example of this? I think it is. But like, there's also modernism, and like there's also like, um it's not just, the Nazis are actually much later now that I think about it. Even World War I was a big deal. Oh, dude, yeah, I'm forgetting European and Western history actually right now. I don't know enough to build the historical bridges there. I feel a little embarrassed actually that I can't do it right now. But there was a lot of like if we know so fucking much, then why is our world so fucked up? You know what I mean? That's kind of like the general gist, and that's the beginning, I think, of modernism. Let me know if I'm characterizing that correctly. If anybody else has an idea here. So then we get different types of art, art where perspective isn't fixed, that we can't just see it from our perspective. Like maybe we have the wrong perspective, right? So then cubism comes out, and now you're taking the same object, but you're with cubism, the whole point is that you're not looking at it from one angle, you're looking at it from multiple angles simultaneously, right? uh, like you can't just trust your own thoughts, you can't trust the knowledge. Oh, actually, there was also scientific revolution there, right? And this is the early 1900s with Einstein. This idea that what, like everything, all the Newtonian laws of physics that we thought were just sort of gonna like map arithmetically onto the whole world, it doesn't hold. you know, like there was a lot of that going on too. So there's like this just general uncertainty, like maybe we don't know. Maybe we're not, maybe this science and all this stuff is like limited. And the kind of arts that came out of that was like, kind of characterized by that sort of anxiety of not really being able to know. I mean, I'm kind of simplifying. I mean, of course, I'm simplifying it because I'm sure I'm missing so many things. Like even like the philosophers of the 1800s were already forerunning this for quite a while. So I'm probably missing a bunch of this, but that's for me what modernism, like that's what drove modernism. And I think postmodernism, Jesus, how do we even talk about postmodernism? God, it's been a while. Because postmodernism is more of the same in some ways, but becomes ironic that the answer to all this uncertainty is just by nodding your hat. So for me, this speech feels postmodern. So the way I meant postmodern when I was saying postmodern is being less anguished about it, right? This uncertainty, and just pointing at it. It's like, maybe that's true, maybe that's not true. I don't know. I don't know. And kind of just constantly being self-referential. To me, that's the postmodern move, to constantly reference yourself as you do it, and that kind of gives you your salvation. uh, like um, like what's the classic postmodern move? Well, I guess at the very beginning, it is a standard requirement of all of these commencement speeches for me to start with a parable. Just like pointing it out and then doing it anyway. That's like, for I think when I think of postmodernism, when I think of that particular passage, I think, oh, postmodern. You know, it's. But I don't know. I actually don't know how to like characterize like the motivation behind postmodernism, and like I even forget what we start characterizing as postmodern art versus just modernist art. Like postmodern art is more, oh god, dude. Yeah, I'm struggling here, so I'm just gonna pause here. But somebody else, somebody else, enlighten me. I'm forgetting. Just drop it in the comments. Okay, here we go. Yeah, dude, preach, brother. This feels very church to me, and in a sort of banal way, to to use that word. He his whole point is be more empathetic, and that liberal arts education will help you with empathy. It is a pretty common argument nowadays. I don't know how common it was back in 2005, but after 2005, when I was going to college, this was a very common argument that liberal arts develops empathy. And I think that's kind of, David Foster Wallace might have been a key player in making that, popularizing that argument. Um, on Twitter, though, after when the culture changed and everyone started shifting towards STEM, right? That was like, I think STEM was a acronym that was invented when I was in college, maybe when I was in high school, right? When the culture shifted towards STEM and everybody started like, and in industry, right, started driving more of our educational needs. Um, you know, the because a lot of science kids are super intelligent, also super articulate. They were like, "What are you talking about? Liberal arts developing empathy? I can develop empathy without liberal arts." Which is funny because that's the same argument that atheists would make to Christians or to religious people. Like, what are you talking about? You need you need religion to be moral. I can be moral without religion, right? And so we have this sort of like scaffolding, sort of like effect here going on, and this argument that, like, where does empathy, where does moral sensibility, like, where does that even come from, right? Does it come from religion? Does it come from liberal arts education? Does it come from just like where does it come from? We want to attribute it to things. I think for me, I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a moral philosopher. I'm not going to make an argument here. I'll just say that it's really hard to answer, and what Dave Foster Wallace is doing is he's trying to pin it on something, right? And for that particular moment in time, for the people that he's talking to, I think it's going to be very effective. It's going to be very effective because it's going to simultaneously praise them for the intelligence and yet also uh, not divert, I guess, or it's going to redirect all that intelligence towards a moral purpose, which is to become more empathetic, to become less self-centered, to think about the world and its beauty, and to be receptive to that. So, from in that time period to that people, I think it would have a very powerful effect. It is a finger wagging Dr. Laura sermon. It's just done in a more hipster way. Uh, Life before death. Okay. It's funny how actually he mentions shooting yourself in the head twice. That's so crazy. Dude, that's so crazy given how he actually does kill himself. We have to keep reminding ourselves over and over. Actually, this is the part of the speech I actually want to hear right now. I'm just gonna keep reading, but I'm not gonna turn it on. But I do want to hear this. I want to hear how he said it. Awareness of what is so real and essential, so hidden in plain sight all around us, that we have to keep reminding ourselves over and over. This is water. This is water. These Eskimos might be much more than they seem. It is unimaginably hard to do this, to live consciously, adultly, day in and day out, which means yet another cliche is true. Your education really is the job of a lifetime, and it commences now. I wish you way more than luck. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Interesting. It feels too close to me, if anything. I think this reading is too new. I know 2005 sounds like a long time ago. It feels too new to me. It feels too much like a blast to like like throwback Thursday to me. It's too close to my high school years. So I feel a little weird reading that one because it feels like I don't have enough distance from it. But I will say, like it doesn't hit me that hard. You know what I mean? Because it feels like arguments that these were the arguments that kind of like I grew up with. It kind of formed me already. So it's already had its impact on me back in the day. This was the time of like the new atheist versus the religious right versus me as a Korean American Christian, just like, like like not really understanding why all these people are fucking arguing about all these things. Like, dude, like Christianity was not what was on TV. Christianity was experienced at a much more personal, at a much more local level. The stuff on TV just seemed like insane politics, and I kind of hated politics. It seemed like it was kind of polluting the experience of the real, the spirit of the religion. So, 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 for me, this is the like if I had been reading this when I was like, peak Christian, I would have been like, my reaction to this would have been like, okay, empathy, self-centeredness. How do you? It's really, really hard to remind yourself that this is water, this is water, this is water, right? But how do you remind yourself? So how are you going to actually do that? And I would have just said, yo, but if you believe in God, if you believe in God, though, if you believe in God and you talk to God daily, you will daily have a reminder that you are not everything, that there is an all powerful force above you. And actually, to this day, I'm no longer Christian, but to this day, I still find that to be a very seductive argument. Like, I've left Christianity, what, like almost 12 years ago? But to this day, I still miss that feeling. That, not feeling, I miss that ritual of being able to talk to a, a being that is so much greater than me, that is such a larger force than I, that the ego just sort of melts away, and I can see things in like in a broader scope of things, and I can kind of divorce myself from me, and kind of take a more humbler inclination towards the things that are happening in my life. And I kind of miss that. I don't have an answer to that. How do you do that without, how do you still develop that sense of self, the sort of ironic sense of self, the sort of selfless sense of self? How do you develop that without God, without talking to God every day? It's, I don't know. I agree with David Foster Wallace. It's really hard. And I even agree with younger religious Saul. It might be easier if you just talk to God every day. Dude, this is turning into a sermon, man. I might be proselytizing myself into Christianity now. Anyway, or into religion of some sort. All right, so that's me. And that is David Foster Wallace. I'm actually super curious what part was eye-opening, because I don't know the difference between the way you would have thought about it and the way I would have thought about it. So I am curious what stuck out to you. Please share that, and I'll look it over when I have some free time. I have to go now though. So guys, until next time, keep on learning, keep on growing. And by the way, my next stream will not be for the next 2 days. I'll be coming back on Saturday night, US Eastern Time, 10:30 p.m. The next 2 days are my weekend. So peace out.